You're standing in a coffee shop in Tokyo. You tap your card, 1,200 yen. Back home, you open your banking app and do the math. Google says the rate is $1 to 157 yen. That coffee should have cost $7.64. Your bank charged you $7.89. 25 cents vanished somewhere between Google and your statement. Multiply that by every transaction on a 2-week trip. That gap is not a glitch. It is a system. And right here on How Things Count, we are going to trace exactly where those missing cents go. The first thing to understand is that the rate Google shows you does not actually exist. Not in the way you think. Google displays something called the mid-market rate. It is the midpoint between what banks are willing to buy a currency for and what they are willing to sell it for. Think of it like a sticker price at a car dealership that nobody ever pays. It is a reference point, a benchmark, but no one on earth transacts at that exact number. So where does it come from? It is born inside the Interbank Market, a network of roughly 20 to 30 massive banks that quote currency prices to each other 24 hours a day. Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, UBS, Citi, Barclays. Together, these 5 alone control more than half of all currency trading on the planet. More than $7 trillion flows through this market every single day. Not annually, daily. That makes it the largest financial market in existence. There is no central exchange, no trading floor. Just a web of private agreements and electronic platforms where these banks quote each other a buy price and a sell price. The gap between those two prices is often a fraction of a cent. On the euro-dollar pair at peak hours, the spread is 0.1 to 0.3 pips, essentially nothing. That near zero spread is what Google shows you, but your card never touches this market. When you tapped in Tokyo, your transaction traveled through 3 separate layers before it became a dollar amount on your statement. Layer 1 is the card network. Visa or MasterCard takes the interbank rate and publishes their own daily wholesale rate. This rate is close to the mid-market, usually within 0.5%, but it is not the mid-market. It is the network's version of it, updated once per day, that gets you to within about 50 cents of the Google rate on a $100 purchase. So where does the rest of the gap come from? Layer 2 is your bank. Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Whoever issued your card, they take the network's rate and add a foreign transaction fee, typically 1 to 3%. Some banks bury this inside the exchange rate itself, so you never see a line item. Others list it as a separate fee. Either way, you're now 2 to 3.5% away from the rate Google showed you. On a $1,000 trip, that is $20 to $35 in invisible fees. But there is a third layer that only appears if you made one specific mistake at the payment terminal. The terminal asked a question: pay in US dollars or Japanese yen? You chose dollars. That triggered something called dynamic currency conversion. The merchant's payment processor converted the transaction for you, using their own rate. That rate is typically 4 to 8% worse than the mid-market. The merchant gets a kickback for offering it. Always choose the local currency, always. That covers what happens at the point of sale. But underneath all 3 of these layers sits one more piece of infrastructure that explains why banks charge anything at all. When your bank converts dollars to yen, somebody has to deliver actual yen and receive actual dollars. This settlement happens 2 business days later, and it carries a specific risk. What if one side pays and the other goes bankrupt before paying back? In 1974, a small German bank called Herstatt did exactly that. It collected Deutsche Marks from American banks. Then it collapsed before sending the dollars back. The chaos froze the entire US payment system for hours. One regional bank and it nearly broke international finance. That disaster created what exists today, a settlement system called CLS that makes sure both sides of a currency trade settle at the exact same time. Both legs clear or neither does. Trillions of dollars in payment instructions pass through CLS every day across 18 currencies, overseen by 23 central banks. Because the banks taking on that 2-day settlement risk build that exposure into the spread they charge you, every fee in that 3-layer chain exists, in part because these risks are real. So the next time you Google an exchange rate before a trip, remember what you're actually looking at. A wholesale price from the deepest layer of a multi-tier system, like checking the price of raw coffee beans and wondering why your latte costs more. The rate is not wrong. Your bank's rate is not wrong either. They are just prices from completely different layers of the same machine. The question is whether you know which layer you're paying at. Because every time you convert currency, someone at every layer earns a fraction of that transaction. And now you know exactly who. Subscribe to How Things Count to see more of the hidden mechanics that run behind your money.